exciting stuff. Let's do our first pose slider. On my rig, I'm going to press Control H to create a composite, and I'm going to call this Mastercontroller Composite. I like to do this before I make my master controllers because I can place all of them in this single composite. Plug this in right here, and we can create kind of a backdrop. Whoops. And let's create a backdrop so we don't lose this guy. Let's make it a little bigger, and we'll call this Master Controllers. Let's get out of our group. So the next thing we need is our Master Controller toolbar up here. If you don't see it, go to Window, Toolbars, and make sure Master Controller is checked. We want to affect every piece of this rig because we want to turn around the whole character. Leave my Master Shadow Peg alone, but holding down Alt, let's select everything inside this group. Right? So hold down Alt, select the group. Okay, now let's press this slider wizard up here. Nice. This menu pops up. We're on the right track. So first things first, what frames do I want to feed into this controller? Right, my first frame is going to be frame 1, and my last frame is going to be frame 10. So my range right now is 1 to 10, and that includes all my keyframes. You can change this to whatever you want. It can be 1 to 2, 1 to 5, whatever. But we'll keep 1 to 10 for now. The next thing is, in this box, this is kind of what is being affected by this master controller. And that's why we selected everything in this group. If we drop down, you'll see that all the pieces are here. And let's say we wanted something to not be affected, like the lower body. We could just click it and remove it from our list, and now our master controller won't affect the lower body. So let's delete these. Then if you just go to your node view, hold down Alt, select everything, add selected nodes, and they should all pop up again. The last thing, let's take a look at this attribute count. And if you press this button here, it kind of filters out your master controller. So anything that has been selected but has no real information, it kind of filters that away, and it makes your master controller a little bit lighter on your system. Let's call this, let's name it now, Full Pose Slider. And we can choose even the direction we want. I like to have it horizontal, but you can do whatever you want. Press Create. So now we can select our master controller comp that we just created. Right? It makes it easier to do it before. Press OK. And this just saves it on your computer. We can press Save. And there we go. See, it appeared in our master controller comp. We can close this. We can add a peg on top. And if we turn off animate mode, we can kind of move this controller off to the side. All right, so let's test this out. Let's go to a frame, let's see, 31. We'll put a keyframe. We'll turn animate back on. Right, whatever you do, don't kind of mess up these keys. So make sure that you're not animating or using this master controller on these keys right now. So if you select this master controller and press this gray button up here, it disappears. If you select it and press this orange thing, it reappears. Right? And we'll see our whole body is sliding. So it gives us quick access to these poses. Okay, now here's kind of a challenge. I also want to create sliders for just the legs and sliders for just the body. So it's the same process, we just need to exclude certain pegs. So try that on your own, and in the next video, we'll go through the solution together. So let's do the pose slider for the legs and the upper body. Okay, so just like my full body, I'm going to leave my lower body peg unaffected, grab everything else inside this lower body group, I'll hold Alt, I'll drag just like that. And do the same thing, press our slider. We want frames 1 to 10. Let's take a look. Right, it's just the lower body now. The pants, everything is included in there. Let's filter our attributes, right, to get rid of any extra ones we don't need. I like the horizontal layout, and we'll call this lower body slider. Press create. Let's choose our Mastercontroller comp, and we'll press OK. Save it. There it is here. Let's close this. Same thing, let's add a peg on top. We can kind of turn off animate mode, move this guy over here, and let's test it out on frame 31. Turn animate back on, and let's see. If you notice, it's not really turning how we want it. And that's because I forgot that my flipping information is on this lower body peg, but that's not included in my pose slider. So what do we do? What do we do when we make a mistake when we're creating our master controller? We can select it, and we press this Unroll Wizard. Click that, and it gives us all the information that's inside this controller. Let's open the wizard, and now we can kind of readjust our master controller. Let's go in, I'll delete everything, and now I'll try again. Let's go Alt, I'll grab the lower body node this time, add selected nodes, filter our attributes again, I'll name this lower body slider again, press create, plug it into our master controller comp, press OK, save it, and there we go. We can kind of get rid of this master controller. Let's move this guy over. And let's see if that works. Right, that's much better. So the legs are sliding in the correct position. Let's do the upper body this time. We did our rotation on the arms and torso. And here's all the upper body pieces. I'm going to exclude the neck and the head. So I'm going to grab all of these nodes. So I'm going to hold Alt. I'm going to grab all of, I'm going to hold Alt, grab all of these nodes, and press my slider wizard again. So see how my cursor is over here at frame 31? I'm just going to move this frame range back to 1 to 10. Right, let's take a look. Everything looks pretty good. I want the collar, the torso back. It's all included. Okay, let's filter these nodes. And now we'll call this upper body slider. Create, master controller, press OK. Save that. All right, let's extend this guy out, add a peg, and move it off to the side. All right, let's see if this one works. Perfect. Right, that is sliding the way we want. So now we can adjust our poses individually, or reset them all with this guy. Okay, last one, let's do the head. So I did my flipping on the head and neck. We'll move this back to frame 1. I'll hold Alt, I'll select all of these pegs. Oops. I'll hold Alt, we'll select all these nodes, do my slider, right? And you can pretty much do sliders for whatever you want, right? It's very, very versatile. It's very cool. We'll just double check. We got the head, the neck. Yeah. We'll filter everything, and we'll call this head slider. Create. Do our master controller comp. Press OK. Save it. There it is. Close it. P. Animate goes off. And let's test this guy out. Right? There you go. The head and neck are sliding pretty good. Let's reset everything. With our pose reset. There you go. Cool. So we have a bunch of sliders to kind of have quick access to these poses. Right? So as an animator, when I'm posing it out, it's really quick to kind of get the head body position that I want and kind of rough it in that way. Guys, let's do some head tilts and create an actual master controller to control those. Oh yeah, also, it's probably good at this point to save your work. So we've got those sliders, and you also notice I added a comp right underneath our main group. Let's do the head tilts now. So I'm going to come to frame 20, and we've kind of already done something like this. So when we got these views, we imported a reference, we knocked down the opacity, and we kind of adjusted those deformers and pegs to match that reference. This comp, file, import, images, browse, and you'll have these head tilts in the exercise files. Just find them on your computer, press open. We'll import as Toon Boom bitmap drawing, single layer. Everything looks okay. Press OK. Up here. And if you notice, I only have 4 head tilts. That's because it's going to be pretty easy to do it for the profile and the quarterback views as well. We don't really need a reference for that. I go to frame 20. And I'm just going to, I'll bring this in front. We'll knock down the opacity, maybe to 50. All right, and let's just match roughly our head. All right, there we go. Let's get the up tilt now. Right, I'm going to try and get it as close as I can. So we can copy our main pose there. Let's do our quarter front pose here. Right, we can shove this forward in Z depth so we can see. As close as we can, that looks fine. We'll throw another peg and get that up pose. Right, so if we turn this off, that's looking good. Our heads are moving. Just like we did with these poses, I'm going to keyframe everything. Just in case. And now I'm going to come down right to our head and neck. That's the peg I'm going to be working on. I need my down tilt and my up tilt. Keyframe those. I'll create a space so I can kind of see what I'm doing. And let's start. Let's lock this guy so we can't select it. And let's start moving our head. I'll just drop him down a little bit. We'll drop the face just like this. Maybe even the beard. Whoops. I'll move these pupils down as well. And we'll kind of just cover it there. Let's get the front hair. We'll drop this. We'll drop that. And these are kind of moving up. So now we can adjust with these deformers. I'll just kind of cheat this and cover this guy. Make this a little bit bigger, cover that. Right, we're straying from the design just a bit to make the rig work, and that's fine. We'll keep the eyebrows like this. I'll kind of just move those eyes up with the deformer. Just by one, move it down a bit. We'll move the whole mouth up here. And kind of drop these beard lines. Really no rush here. We're just kind of going a little bit quick because of this, just for the sake of the tutorial. Adjust those pieces. Oops, and see how I kind of messed up my order? That's fine. I'll just grab this and bring it in front so I can compare. And I can kind of grab these, use this tool up here, and I can scale these points in just a little bit, right, to kind of give it that feeling that it's kind of going away from the audience, away from the camera. I'll select these, drop them down a bit. And I think the last thing, we're gonna just curve the beard so it doesn't look so flat. Good. Keyframe this. We reset our view, and let's go to our up view this time. And same kind of deal. We'll move the head up. I'll move the face up. Kind of get in line with those eyes. Move the nose. Right, it's just like a rough guide. And we'll grab these deformer points and just shift them down. Right. Nice, that's looking good. We can move the mouth up a little bit more. And then we can probably squash these eyes as well. Okay, so those are our two views. I'm going to do the same thing for every position of the head. Right, we'll skip ahead because it's a little repetitive. Just make sure to take your time, and you can spend as much time as you want on this stage. So if we take a look now, I went in, and I have all these head tilts. So front view, down, up, quarter front, down, up, profile, down, up, back, down, up, and then full back, down, up. And then we have it flipped on the other side. All right, so we're going to stay on the head and neck layer. if we select it, press O, I can actually color this in, like, we'll say yellow. So now I can see the layer that I'm working on, which is pretty helpful. Okay, so let's make this turn. So what I want to do is kind of just like we did with the head slider, I'm going to hold Alt and select my head and neck, including my head and neck peg. But now instead of pressing this slider wizard, let's press this grid wizard. So now we kind of need to think. We want to set up how many head positions we have. You can select how many points we actually need. You can create a new one, but there's also some presets here. So it works up and down, it's kind of the tilts of the head, and then horizontal is kind of the rotation of the head. We have 5 positions on each side and 3 positions going up and down. So I'm thinking, if my math is correct, we can do this one, 10 by 3 grid. It's pretty handy because Toon Boom kind of already set it up for me. If you notice, zoom out a bit, right, a few of these points are really, really close together, and you'll see why they did that in a second. We zoom in and press these points. You'll see their position over here is really close together. So this one, sorry, is -1, and then this guy is 0.01. That's because normally on a grid wizard, Toon Boom interpolates the poses. The problem with that is we have a head flip, and if we were to tween that, it would flip and it wouldn't look good. The way we work around that is here. We move these points really, really close together. And all you do is just select the point and you can just change the position. But with those presets, Toon Boom already did it for us. All that's left to do now is to kind of feed in our frames into these red dots. So we're going to go middle to screen right, and then we'll come back and do the left side. The middle position, the default position, I'll press it right in the middle. And that's going to be on frame 19. Press OK. Stepping forward, I need my down position. So I'll click this one right below it on frame 20. Okay, and now we'll step forward. Right? It's very important we do this one step at a time, and we take it very, very slow, because we want to get this right. We'll press here, frame 21, press OK. Okay, moving on to the next position. Middle, that's frame 23. Down, we'll press here. I'm just clicking on the dot. This is popping up, I'll press OK, and then I move to my next frame. I make sure that I click the correct dot. There we go. All right, next frame. This is our profile view. Click it. Next frame, down. Next frame, up. Nice. Let's go to the back now. 31. Click this one. We're on frame 32. Read very slow. I want to make sure I'm not making any mistakes here. Okay, in the back, we got 35. We go down, and then we press our last one. Okay, so now let's go back to the center. Right, remember, there's a point here, but it's very, very close. Right, so now we're going to work backwards. So I really want to make sure that I get the correct point. So I'm going to zoom in real close. Right, I'm choosing the back one, right, on frame 57. That's okay. Let's zoom out. We'll kind of scroll down, zoom in. We'll make sure we're on the down head. Right, we chose the back, press OK. And let's go up. Next frame, the up pose. Right, we got the right one. Okay, perfect. Next, our other quarter front. And we're just going to go through and do the exact same thing. Right, I'll let you guys watch this just because it's important to because it's important to know how to do this. So here, this is our main pose, right? And it doesn't matter the order, right? As long as we feed it in properly in Toon Boom, right? So this is the down, I'll go here. This is the up, I'll go there. Right, same thing here. This is the middle, this is the down, and this is my up pose. All right, last one. Back, down, and we go up like that. Okay, so we can kind of step through, right? Click these points, make sure they're in the right spot. Everything seems to be good. Here, oops, down, up, right? And these poses are also in the right spot. Okay. All right, so remember, let's filter the attributes, right? Make this a little bit lighter. We'll name this the head tilt master controller. We'll press create. We'll put it on our master controller comp. Press OK. Save it. OK. Now we can close this. We'll move these over. I'll add a peg. And take a look. So there is our controller. We'll do the same thing. We'll just move this off to the side. Right? And let's test it out. So I'm going to go right to the end of my timeline, just so I don't mess up any of these frames. We'll turn this on, and let's have a look. So that's the back view. We rotate it around, and it gets a full rotation. We can look up, look to the side. Some of the pieces are moving out of place when we tween. We can slightly adjust those pieces when we're animating. Right? Our main views are working pretty well. Right? And the most important thing is here, this flip doesn't flip at all, which is what we want. Right? And this is just a basic master controller setup. There's so much you can do with master controllers. It really is up to your imagination, so don't be afraid to experiment and see what kind of works for you. The next video, we'll be adding some finishing touches and kind of packaging this rig so it's ready to start animating. Let's create some sliders for our eyelids now. We'll drop a keyframe on frame 70, 80, and 90. We'll activate our eyelids, click our selectors and kind of drag them to an open position. And the same thing on the other side. Now on frame 80, we'll close the eyelids. We can use the deformers to kind of get them in a better position. Just like that. And then we'll copy this frame and paste it at the end. So now we have kind of a cycle for our eyelids. I'll come into my group and I'll select my top eyelids. All right, I'll move this peg up. I'll move this out of the way and I'll just select all of these nodes, right? I'll include even the selector. Okay, so we'll select all of them. And I'll come up to my slider wizard and press that. Nice, we've seen this menu before. So the first frame is going to be frame 70. The last frame is going to be frame 90. And let's check the elements in our slider. I kind of forgot to select my lower lid and also the lids for the other eye. Okay, so that's not a problem. We can just go into our node view again. Right, they're definitely not there. So I'll select my lids that are missing, and then I'll just add them to my selection. There you go. Okay, and now we need to do the same thing for the other lids for the other eye. Okay, we're in the other eye. I'll select both lids this time just to kind of speed things up and just add selection. Okay, so now all our eyelid nodes are inside our slider. I'll uncheck this horizontal orientation because I want it to be going up and down. Let's filter those attributes, and now we can name this whatever we want. Okay, press create. I'll find my Mastercontroller comp. Just scroll down, press OK, and then just save it on your computer. All right, there it is. Let's check it out. We'll drag it to the right. We'll just adjust this a bit, add a peg on top. All right, we can move the slider off to the side just for now. And if we move it around, make sure Animate's turned on. Right, we'll choose a different frame just in case I don't want to mess up any of those poses. We'll see that the lids are working. Okay, so now we have to check one more thing. So our lids are working. I want to activate my Mastercontroller head tilt and just check something here. So if we activate both of these controllers at the same time, right? So I'm going to move my head controller. That's working. I'll try to move my eyelid sliders as well, and then go back to my head. Right, I'm just checking to see if the lids stay in the same spot. And the reason they do that is because we filtered our Mastercontroller for our head tilts. If we didn't filter it, we would have to go in with our Unroll wizard up here and just kind of take out those eyelid nodes from our head tilt Mastercontroller. We'd have to go into this menu, drop down, and kind of just delete the eyelid nodes. Right, but we filtered our controller before, so that is working for us. We don't have to worry about that. But it's a good thing to check to make sure one master controller doesn't really override another. Unless of course, you want it to. So our controllers are all put in. Everything's working pretty well. In the next video, we can really package this rig up and make sure it's ready for animation. Okay, so now let's kind of create a separate control panel for these master controllers. So if we were to activate all these controllers, you'll see that it takes up a lot of space and it can be pretty distracting, right? If this was an actual scene, we really wouldn't be able to. So if this was an actual scene, it would be kind of difficult to get our work done because all these controllers are in the way. So let's move them off to the side. So now we can actually see what we're doing when we're animating. Okay, so I'll just rearrange these so they make a little bit more sense. There we go. I'll move my head tilts off to the side as well. And finally, my eye sliders. I'll move those too. I can select all these pegs and create a new peg on top that kind of controls all these controllers at once. That way, if I want to shift them over or move them together, it makes it a lot easier to do that. So now we can kind of customize these controllers a bit more. So let me click the slider. We'll press the tool properties, and this menu kind of shows up. And this gives us a whole bunch of options to kind of customize this controller a little bit further. Right, these are pretty self-explanatory, right? We can kind of change the horizontal orientation. This box, we can change the actual label name. Okay, and at the bottom, we can kind of change the color as well. So we can change the slider color. I'll do a nice purple. You can also change that little circle as well. Okay, so this is kind of just to make it stand out. So you can kind of color code these sliders. Okay, now let's check the actual master controller, because we can edit that as well, but there's a few extra things we can do here. Right, so this kind of just means if we click these buttons up here, will the controller show up or will it be hidden? We'll just leave that. Right, these are kind of the same thing. We can get rid of this outlining box, or we can show our grid lines. Right, this kind of gives us a better picture of where our key poses are. So I like to keep this checked. I think it makes it a lot easier to see what's going on. And okay, so here are the final master controllers. You can see I changed the colors, I changed the label colors, and now I'll just reposition them so they're a little bit easier to access. Right, but the problem is, if we were to use these controllers, I would need to scroll the camera to the side, make my adjustments, and then scroll back to the stage and actually see what the changes were. So I can't really see both at the same time. But we can fix that. So what we can do, we can go to Preferences. And remember at the beginning, we went to Advanced and checked Advanced Display. This gives us this little drop-down display menu. So something pretty cool we can do, we can actually add another camera view. So just go to Window, select Camera, we'll drag it up here. And if we position this camera just on our master controllers and position our first camera on our character, you'll see we can kind of manipulate the controllers and see the character at the same time. Okay, but it's the same view, but we don't really want characters in each camera view because that would kind of slow down the program. So let's add a display node, plug it right under our master controller. We can call it master controller display. Right, plug that in. And now, if we go up to our camera, that drop-down menu, we'll see the display we just created. We click that, and suddenly, our character is gone from our master controller display. Now, to get rid of our master controllers from our character display, we can just unplug it, right, from the main comp, and there we go. We'll just choose our character display here, and now we have two separate views that won't really slow down Toon Boom, but gives us a lot of functionality in terms of working and posing this character out. And I like that. I really, really like this setup. Okay, but now let's make sure that we don't accidentally move all of these master controller nodes. We want them to stay right in this corner. So an easy way to do this, we could use a transformation limit, but an easier way, all we need to do is just select our peg, go to the tool properties, and just lock it here. Press that little lock icon. And now we can't really select this peg at all. And we'll just lock everything just to be safe. And it's a very simple and quick way to make sure that these master controllers don't move. Last thing we need to make sure is that these controllers are very easy to find for our animators. Because when you open up this scene, the controllers aren't going to be active, right? And if we deactivate them, we wouldn't really know where to look for the controllers. We know they're up there, but that's because we created the rig. Some of the animators may have a hard time finding these controllers. So what we can do, we'll create a drawing node, just a regular drawing node, add it to our comp, and plug it in to After. Now we can use the text tool just over there, and I'll just write some text on top of our controllers. And at this stage, you can kind of customize this as much as you want. You can use the pencil tool and add even some artwork or drawings around your controllers. We're going to keep it simple and just use the text though. Okay, so let's call it Bruno Control Panel. Right, something simple, but communicates what's going on. Right, so now if we deactivate our controllers, it kind of gives us a hint where things are, right? We're scrolling around, we see, oh, what does that say? Control panel. And now we can activate the controllers and everything is right there. So it helps kind of navigate where these controllers are. So at this point, we can kind of save this file. This is kind of our build file with all the keyframes in it. And we can use this in case we ever want to add some new poses or add some new elements to the rig. This is the version to do it in. What we want to do now is create a version for the animators to use. So that version is going to have a way cleaner timeline, and it's going to be packaged as a template so we can drag it into any scene we want. Okay, so before we template this, we're going to have to clean up the palettes. This just makes sure that there aren't any unused color palettes in our Harmony file, and this really has an effect on the rig's responsiveness. So you can go to File and press Remove Unused Files, and then this menu should pop up. You can select one or select all of the palettes. It's usually a good idea to select all of them. And just press OK and let Harmony do its thing. This step is really, really important, guys, because it's so simple, but it makes a very, very big difference when it comes to your rig's responsiveness when you're animating. And it can really help prevent lagging and crashing in the software. Now, is we're going to leave our first frame on the timeline, but everything else, we're going to delete it from the timeline. Okay, so leave our first frame, we'll delete everything else, and we can press F5 at the end to extend our exposure. But you'll notice our controllers, when we use them, they still work. We still get those poses. Now, why is that? That's because the keyframes that we fed into these master controllers, they're actually stored within the controllers. So if we go to the Unroll wizard, down in this menu here, you'll see these are all the frames that we used. We can press Apply Frames, right? And you'll see they kind of jump back on the timeline. So there they are again. They're not lost. They're just inside our master controllers. Okay, cool. So now we can work on templating this rig. I'm going to extend the scene a little bit, maybe to around 200 frames. And we'll extend the exposure, press F5 as well, right? This just makes sure that there's artwork on all these layers. I'm going to go out of the group and come up to my library. If you don't see it, just go to Window and press Library. And all the library is a place on your computer that stores files. You can press right to modify. Oops, no, just here. If you want to open a new folder or create a new folder, you just right click and press Open Library. And that will create a new folder. You'll see here, underneath this Harmony Premium library, I have a bunch of different folders that I made. Okay? So we'll save it in here. I'm going to go down to my node view, and I'll hold Alt and select all these nodes. Okay, just to make sure I get everything. So hold Alt, select the nodes, and now we can make sure that the timeline is extended. We can press Control C and click on our library window and press Control V to paste. You'll see this dialog pops up. We can rename our template whatever we want. Right? Sometimes you'll have different versions of your rig templated, so just make sure it's clear. You'll see that it pops up right there. Okay, and now our rig is templated. So if we wanted to send this to somebody, we would need to find this file on our computer. We just need to zip it, and then we could send it to whoever we want. Okay, but the beauty of this is we can drag our rig into any Harmony file we want. So here's a new one, so we can see an example. I'll go to my library. And if there's a lock on it, right, you may need to right-click and press right to modify to have access to the files inside that library. These files have locks on them. If I right-click and press right to modify, the lock disappears, and now we can access the files inside. Pretty simple. Okay, let's find where we saved our template. Here it is. See it? If you don't see it, you may have to right-click and press Refresh Library, and then it should pop up. Okay, let's grab it, drag it into our node view. I don't know why they dragged it all the way down. If you see in the corner, it's pretty far away. So let's just grab it, move it back to our original position. Okay, and now we can kind of plug it into our main comp, and you'll see we have access to our rig. Let's test out the master controllers, see if they work. Right there's our little marker text. We can select these, turn them on. And there we go. We have a fully functioning rig in a separate file. And now we're ready to start animating. Okay, guys, so that's it. Our character is finally finished. We finally made it to the end. And, congratulations if you made it this far. This was not an easy thing to do, to rig a full 360 character. So at the very least, I hope now you're a little more confident, a little more comfortable manipulating some sophisticated rigs for your animations. And hopefully now you have some tools and tips and tricks that you can use in your own characters if you're making some cool rigs for your personal project.